Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now in today's one I want to talk about the new 12GB RTX 2060 that you may have seen at some online retailers. Just like anything else at the moment, it costs way too much for what it is, and here in the UK the AMD RX 6600 can be found for less money and will probably offer better performance. Prices and availability will vary depending on where you live, so I won't get too much into that, but for the £500+ that you'd pay for the new 2060 here, it just isn't a tempting offer for gamers at all, because to be honest, it's probably not for gamers. When it comes to mining, I'm clueless, but targeting that audience seems to be the priority for Nvidia right now. Don't let anyone tell you that multi-billion-dollar companies place a higher regard for anything over money. While I haven't yet been able to bring myself to spend what is way too much on this card, a friend of mine has, and although I don't have that many benchmarks to share with you, I wanted to share them with you anyway, just for the sake of pointing out that if you want a 2060 right now, you probably won't be any better off going for the 12GB model if you just want to play games, unless where you live a 6GB 2060, be it new or second hand, costs the same or similar to the new version with double the memory. Now I'm always extra cautious when sharing benchmark figures that aren't mine, but after I saw a hardware unboxed video of this card and saw that they experienced similar performance gains, or rather lack thereof in some titles, I feel comfortable in bringing you these findings. Now, for a bit of backstory, my friend purchased the Founders 2060 at launch and decided to splash out on their new 12GB Zotac model for his younger brother, whose 1050 Ti has just died, because there was nothing else in stock. He asked me if I wanted him to test any games for the channel, and I said yes, so he stuck both cards in his Ryzen 5 3600 system and sent across a few test results. Now it's important to note that the 12GB 2060 shares the same 2176 core count as the 2060 Super, but the 12GB card has the same 192-bit memory bus as the OG 2060, which of course reduces the bandwidth. This is why the results I saw confused me at first, because I thought the differences would be bigger in performance. It's easy to assume that this is more like a 12GB version of the Super, when in fact it's just not. Now the following differences in frame rates and frame time figures will be displayed in a table. What you will notice though is that every gameplay result has one thing in common, and that is the results don't differ that much at all. Unfortunately, I don't have any 1440p results at this time, but I can only assume that the results would again be closer perhaps. As I said before, this is backed up by results I've seen elsewhere. Now it is still my opinion that the RTX 2060 is a good performing card as we enter 2022, especially for 1080p gamers, though how it holds up and how the prices of older and new models change remains to be seen. Here, a second-hand 6GB 2060 can be found for £50 to £100 cheaper than a new 12GB model, so that's worth keeping in mind, as the history of second-hand cards, especially now, is difficult to gauge unless the sellers just straight up tell you that they've been mining with them. Now I will be buying one of these for myself in the future when the prices drop, because I'd like to be able to test it with a few more games and run a few more benchmarks myself, but even as a tech reviewer I'm glad someone else offered to provide me with some test results, because I just couldn't justify the expense of this thing. Not at the moment, but I will however decline to score it because I haven't personally had experience with this new card. As of right now, it escapes a score on the potatometer, but even if we were to rate it, I'd be hard pressed to find a suitable score, because like an OG 2060, it is still capable. It just costs way too much for what it is, but I guess that should come as no surprise anymore. This was more of a, well, not really a rant, but a PSA if you will, as opposed to a review, because I wanted to talk about this card, because in the long run, and to be honest, it just doesn't really make that much sense to me, but then again, nothing in the world of graphics cards really does at the moment. I mean, we took a look at a re-released GT 730 a couple of days ago that in some places or some games was actually worse than the standard 730, and yeah, the state of tech at the moment is a pretty messy place to be. But thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think of this card down below, and whether or not you'll be buying one out of sheer desperation because there's nothing else available. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, leave a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I'll be back with another hardware review in the next one.